There was a swamp in the heart of the wilderness where no one dared venture. Locals whispered of a monstrous crocodile that ruled the waters, a beast larger than any they'd ever seen. They called it the Grim Reaper of the Marsh, and it was no ordinary predator. It was cunning, territorial, and utterly ruthless. Fishermen who dared to drift too close to the swamp would vanish without a trace, their boats found days later, shredded and splintered. Stories spread of glistening, amber eyes that watched from beneath the water's surface, biding their time until the perfect moment to strike. Those who escaped its clutches spoke of a hiss that chilled their blood and a shadow so massive it blocked out the setting sun. One summer, a daring young man named Ethan decided he would put an end to the terror. Armed with a rifle and unyielding arrogance, he ventured into the swamp. His plan was simple: track the beast, kill it, and prove the tales to be overblown exaggerations. As the sun set, Ethan found himself surrounded by the eerie stillness of the marsh. The water mirrored the darkening sky, broken only by the occasional ripple. Hours passed, and just as he began to doubt the legends, a low, guttural growl echoed through the air. His flashlight trembled in his grip as he scanned the murky waters. Then he saw it. Two glowing eyes, closer than he could have anticipated. The crocodile was massive, its jagged snout and scarred hide rising silently from the water like a phantom. Ethan raised his rifle, but before he could fire, the creature moved with a speed that defied its size. The water erupted in a violent splash, and Ethan was thrown backward, his flashlight spinning into the marsh. The beast loomed over him now, its jaws lined with rows of serrated teeth, dripping with water and menace. He scrambled to his feet, but the swamp seemed to conspire against him, the mud dragging at his boots. Desperation turned to terror as the crocodile charged, its massive tail slicing through the water like a whip. Ethan fired blindly, the shots echoing through the swamp, but the creature seemed unfazed. The last thing he saw was the monstrous maw descending upon him, teeth gleaming in the pale moonlight. Days later, the locals found Ethan's boat washed ashore, claw marks etched deep into its surface. His rifle was snapped in half, and his hat lay soaked and torn. Once again, the Grim Reaper of the Marsh had claimed another victim, and the swamp grew quieter, as if satisfied with its latest conquest. To this day, the marsh remains forbidden ground, a place where nature's wrath takes the form of a crocodile too monstrous to be real, yet too deadly to be ignored. Only fools wander too close now, for they all know one thing: the beast is watching, and it never misses.
Deep in the heart of an ancient forest, there was a place no map marked and no trail led to. A place that had been swallowed by time and the relentless growth of nature. It was known among locals as the Whispering Battlefield, a once vital war site abandoned decades ago. The stories surrounding it were dark: soldiers gone missing without a trace, anguished screams that echoed in the night, and an unshakable feeling of being watched by unseen eyes. Adrian was a historian and avid explorer. When he stumbled upon mention of the battlefield in a weathered journal, he felt compelled to uncover its secrets. He packed his gear and set out, the forest closing around him as he ventured deeper into uncharted territory. The first sign of the battlefield was a rusted helmet partially buried in the dirt. Then came the remnants of old trenches overgrown with moss and vines. Finally, Adrian found himself in the heart of the site, a clearing where the trees stood like silent sentinels, their gnarled branches clawing at the sky. Broken weapons and shattered crates littered the ground, their metal surfaces gleaming faintly in the fading daylight. As night fell, the forest grew unnervingly quiet. Adrian set up his camp, but sleep refused to come. The air felt heavy, oppressive, as if the very ground carried the weight of countless unspoken tragedies. Then the whispers began. At first they were faint, a soft murmuring carried by the wind. But as the hours dragged on, the whispers grew louder, more distinct. Adrian could make out fragments of words, pleas for help, orders shouted in urgency, and cries of pain. He told himself it was his imagination, fueled by the eerie surroundings, but the whispers seemed to come closer when circling his camp like unseen predators. Unable to bear it, Adrian grabbed his flashlight and ventured out to investigate. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing shadowy shapes that danced just beyond its reach. Then he saw them, figures in tattered uniforms, their faces obscured by shadows, their movements jerky and unnatural. One of them turned toward him, and Adrian felt a chill unlike anything he had ever experienced. The figure's face was pale and hollow, eyes sunken and lifeless, yet filled with an unrelenting sorrow. Its lips moved, but no sound came, and yet Adrian could hear its voice in his mind. "Leave this place." Adrian stumbled back, his flashlight flickering as the shadows closed in. The whispers became deafening, a cacophony of anguish and despair that seemed to pierce his very soul. He ran, the figures following him, their shapes blending with the trees, until he tripped and fell into one of the overgrown trenches. There he saw them, countless skeletal remains, their bony hands clutching at rusted weapons, their empty eye sockets staring skyward. Adrian scrambled to his feet and fled, the forest seeming to shift and twist around him as if trying to keep him trapped. When he finally burst out of the woods, gasping for air, the whispers ceased. He looked back, but the forest stood silent and still, as if mocking him with its facade of tranquility. Adrian never spoke of what he saw that night, but he never returned to the whispering battlefield. Others who ventured there were not so fortunate, for the spirits of the fallen still lingered, their restless souls bound to the cursed ground where they met their end. The forest remembers, and it does not forgive trespassers.